And the hard truth coming in, I know this sounds harsh, but if you were or are a helicopter parent, this transition will be way harder for you than your child.
That dance between providing guardrails and providing freedom is frankly one of the hardest parts of parenting at any stage, I think. And even on a practical level, right? Those calls and texts of, Mom, I need money. I have a friend who came up with a genius idea for this after too many calls for emergencies, i.e., I'm at a restaurant and I don't have enough money to pay for my crab rangoon. It's an emergency.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, God, that story kills me. And she told her kids, I will send you anything you really need from Amazon. The emergencies have to involve imminent bodily harm.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. Today we'll be talking about launching kids and the combo platter of emotions that go along with the empty nest. But before we dive in, Lisa, what are you drinking?
Okay, so I'll admit I'm doing my health thing again. I had a bit of a scare with my dad this weekend, who's 83 and ended up in the emergency room because, hey, turns out if you just drink coffee and milk and booze, you're not hydrating. Shocker. So he dehydrated the crap out of himself. So I have a big old glass of water with some True Sport electrolytes in there. But as I love to show off my cups, I have my inhale, exhale, downward dog manatees, balanced
Cute.
out by my Magic AF unicorn sticker, which I think kind of bookends my personality. And you, my
Love
friend,
it.
I know you're drinking something super special.
I am so excited to tell everybody what I am drinking. I am drinking a glass of chilled rosé, but it's not just any rosé. It is the rosé that my niece and her best friend created. They launched their boxed wine company in July called Vino Disco. Look how cute that box is.
So
Grown
cute.
in California. Sustainable. They donate $1 to restaurant workers in need because they were both restaurant workers. That's how they started out. They are just a women-owned company, care about people, care about the earth, and I'm just so damn proud of them. And the wine is pretty tasty. 2 bottles fit in this little box, and guess what? It lasts 8 weeks. So,
link in the show notes. Today, we are talking about several themes that come up while launching kids, and this is super exciting because this is our first listener requested episode. So Thank you so much to listener Lisa for being a loyal listener and suggesting this episode. And we're going to send her something as a thank you. So keep it coming. Super stoked about that. So we are talking about letting go, the gift of time, reconnecting with ourselves, nurturing relationships, and prioritizing pleasure. All the positive stuff that we should all embrace when we launch kids. But we're also going to talk about how to deal with half-launched kids, even quarter-launched kids, kids in college, and my situation where, frankly, kids are in kind of a semi-permanent state.
And we want to offer our 2 cents along with some ideas and inspiration for navigating this major life transition. And hopefully will empower you to embrace this new chapter.
And because we always want you to walk away from our episodes with something, we will suggest some actionable steps that you can take and also give you some great helpful resources.
So let's just rip the Band-Aid right off and talk about the hardest part when our kids leave the nest, whether they're going to college, moving out to start their lives, whatever. It's the feelings. Knowing you need to start letting go, but you really don't want to. And also the fear that something's going to happen to them when they are out of your reach. And of course, there's sadness because you just really miss the hell out of them. There is this huge emotional shift that happens, and trying to manage all the feelings is like being on a roller coaster. My kids and I have and had a pretty close relationship. So when my son, my firstborn, left for college in 2014, I really felt like I lost my little buddy. And as annoying as he could be to his sister and just kind of in general, because, boys can be loud and just kind of like a whirling dervish sometimes. So his energy was definitely missing from the household. And this made things hard.
Yes, I'm in a different stage at the moment, but I know friends that I have that have launched kids to college and have struggled with this period for sure. Some of them have had to deal with kids calling and saying they don't like school. They had to bring them home. Others have had to deal with kids not calling, not texting, and just generally not communicating.
Yeah, there is really this internal complexity because you're watching your child step into adulthood and you just have this myriad of emotions, right? Pride, grief, sadness, relief, and even fear. And it's the natural shift from being in the trenches of parenting to learning to trust in their independence. And that is freaking scary. I was on an 18-year hiatus from my career to raise my kids. So when they started leaving the nest, I felt like I lost my job and along with it, my identity. But more about that later. My son's first year gone, we would FaceTime once a week. And we had never really FaceTime before. Like, I don't know, what was it, 2014? I don't know, FaceTiming wasn't really a thing for us. But we used that to check in, and to actually be able to see his face was so helpful for this mama's aching heart. And neither of my kids loved their first semester away at school. They both wanted to come home, but we had made a deal that if after the first year they still wanted to pivot and go somewhere else, they could. And, I think the boys, and this is stereotypical, but just I have a boy and a girl, I think boys are notoriously bad at communicating. But we had set some guidelines with my son in the beginning. And so we just decided every week we would call and then we could text spontaneously, but not too much.
Yes, I know our listeners will want to know some good ways to connect with their college and adult students. So we will try and provide some helpful tips. I'm sure it's really hard to navigate. Remind me, I know your daughter went to University of Redlands. Of course, we've talked about the Redlands cult before. Where did your son go and how far away was he?
He was also at the University of Redlands.
Okay. All right.
They both went. But it is so hard because if kids are leaving the nest to go away to college or to start a career or, start their lives, which are all normal experiences, by the way, it can be so lonely. Being so far out of their comfort zone, they will be homesick, especially in the first several months. My daughter and my son were an hour away when they went to college, so they could drive home when they were feeling extra lonely. And this applied more to my daughter than my son. He didn't really come home that much. But we did not let her come home every weekend, even though she definitely could have. But we knew she would not build the relationships and the routines that she needed if she came home every weekend. And let me tell you, this was hard because your mama bear instinct kicks in. They're sad, they're lonely, they're not making friends, and you just want to wrap them up and make it better. And they will end up making friends, by the way, so don't worry. But resist this urge as hard as it is, because this is a growing and learning experience for them and for you. And of course, all circumstances are different. And obviously, if there's any kind of negative experiences happening, bullying, etc., follow your intuition. But I think as a whole, it's important to remember that most kids and their parents at this stage are going through the exact same thing. So you're not alone and your kids are not alone. And the hard truth coming in, I know this sounds harsh, but if you were or are a helicopter parent, this transition will be way harder for you than your child.
Yeah, I actually had a friend whose son became mired in addiction in college, and she had to come take him home. And I can only imagine how hard that was. That dance between providing guardrails and providing freedom is frankly one of the hardest parts of parenting at any stage, I think. And even on a practical level, right? Those calls and texts of, "Mom, I need money," are challenging to navigate. I got one of those from my daughter the other day, my 14-year-old, and my response was, "I'm not made of money." And of course, my smart ass daughter says, "Yes, you are. Your name spells O. That's what it stands for." Little stinker. I also had a friend who came up with a genius idea for this after too many calls for emergencies, i.e., I'm at a restaurant and I don't have enough money to pay for my crab rangoon. It's an emergency.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, God, that story kills me. And she told her kids, "I will send you anything you really need from Amazon. The emergencies have to involve imminent bodily harm. Crab rangoon is not imminent bodily harm." Right? I thought that was a good way to kind of like really make it black and white, right?
For sure.
How did you deal with that with your kids when they were in college, Karen?
Yeah, I want to talk about that. But you know what? I want to talk about your friend who had to take her son out of school. And I just feel so deeply for her and for parents who have to make that decision. Because in cases like that, it's obviously the right move. And props to her for having her finger on the pulse to know that it was time to make that decision. And, full transparency, the alcohol and substance use on the college campuses are definitely a factor, especially when kids are out from under their parental rules and their structure. And honestly, some kids go off the rails a little. So keeping tabs on that is important, not to freak anybody out, but just keeping the lines of communication open. You know your kids better than anyone. And I also remember myself, my freshman year of college, there were kids who had to leave because of substance use issues. And it's definitely a slippery slope for parents. And like I said, I think communication is key. But as for the money part, I think I was a mean mom. Actually, my daughter has kind of confirmed this, but they never called and asked for money. Their freshman year, we gave them a debit card. And this was the first time they had a debit card. And so we would pay the bill, but there were guidelines on what they could buy, right? So they still had the independence, but we were keeping tabs on what they're spending money on. And we bought the school meal plan for them. So obviously going out for sushi 3 times a week was definitely not on the approved list. And then their sophomore year, they got jobs and we still paid for the meal plan, their Greek life dues and things like that. But they paid for all the extras like the crab rangoon. I love your friend's idea about using Amazon for those necessities. I feel like a dinosaur, but sending things through Amazon really wasn't commonplace when my kids left the nest, or maybe I just didn't catch on. I don't know. But this is a great hack and it makes the whole care package thing easier because first of all, it's a financial boundary for the kids, right? It's like, it's cut and dry. But also when you want to surprise them with a package, you can just send them the fun stuff that you think they'll like. Like I didn't send so many care packages, but I would go visit my kids since they were only about an hour away. And I would take them shopping to Target or Walmart, wherever, for the necessities. And this was my sneaky way to ensure I got to see them once a month or so because they always needed stuff, especially that first year. Then any care packages I sent, because you do want them to get mail because that's fun, right? But especially that first year, the things I sent were usually like holiday themed things, fun snacks, and then for my daughter, like trinkets and dorm decorations and stuff like that. And I didn't really do that often because they were relatively close. My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my midlife reclamation guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
Okay, Coach Karen. Along with info from, of course, our Drinks with the Girls research department, those fabulous boys, tell us more about practical ways to help with the tough feelings of launching kids, please.
There's so many feelings that go along with launching kids. Ups and downs, highs and lows. But the first thing that is really important to do is just to acknowledge what you're feeling and just allow it. Don't shame yourself for crying because you're missing your child. And don't let anybody else shame you for that either, by the way, even your kid. But, I am a journal freak. So, of course, I'm going to recommend that you journal your feelings regularly, naming them without judgment, because sometimes it's hard to really pinpoint. Like, you might find out that, wow, I'm really scared to have them out of the house where I can't really see what's going on all the time, right? So just try to label and name your feelings, and do not judge yourself, as I said, because that is a key component. Just get your feelings on paper, and then that will help you start to move through them. And judging yourself or beating yourself up for feeling sad does not help anyone.
Yeah, I can imagine. The other thing is to practice mindful letting go. So create a small letting go ritual, such as lighting a candle, spending a few minutes thinking about how much fun they're having or how much they are growing because of this. You could write a letter to your child, not to be sent, just to express your feelings, or write a letter to yourself acknowledging what an amazing parent you've been. These are classic personal development tools, of course. So I know for me, I've been teaching my daughter to do this a bit as she tries to move away from all the trauma of middle school and starts embracing a new awesome normal at her high school. She found like a yearbook or some kind of something from middle school. And, she's just fresh from graduating from 8th grade, and she just got really sad. And she was like, take it away from me. So I was like, I took it, I ripped it up, and I just kind of looked at her and grabbed her hands, and I was like, it is finished. It is finished. It is finished. And we just kind of did that. And she just felt lighter afterwards. So I love those little letting go rituals. I think those are important.
And I love that you are teaching her things like this at such a young age. Like, I feel like if all kids were taught tools like this, it would make it much easier for them to maintain their sense of mental well-being. So props to you, Mama.
Thank you.
Something else that you can do is celebrate the milestones. So your emotions are linked to your thoughts, right? So learn to change your mindset by actively celebrating your child's achievements, reinforce your pride instead of thinking so much about your fear or your worry or your sadness, right? Celebrate your milestones. Parenting is not easy, and you helped your child get to this place. So our job as parents is to raise self-sufficient, independent people. So the fact that they're stepping out of the nest signifies a job well done.
Yeah. And in terms of being in touch with your kids, I mean, Karen gave some really great ideas. You get to decide what that might look like, right? So sometimes they might really embrace their independence, especially boys, and don't reach out much, which is okay. It doesn't mean they don't love you or aren't thinking about you. You could make a mutual agreement about how you want to keep in touch. Maybe talk on the phone once a week, like Karen FaceTime with their son once a week, send fun emojis between phone calls. Let them know what you need from them to ease your mind. Don't overdo it. Take advantage of this, but it's okay for them to know that you miss them, right? And if they are in college or even just far from home, care packages are a great way to send some love. Here are some ideas. Home baked goods. Some of the family favorites, maybe you could overnight them with an ice pack to give them a little taste of home. Microwavable foods, those are always good, like cup of soup or mac and cheese, ramen noodles, oatmeal popcorn, kettle corn, whatever, right? A mini medicine cabinet with Advil, NyQuil, cough drops, or even an electric diffuser with essential oils, which is one of my faves. Their favorite tea or coffee with a mug and maybe a French press. Holiday decorations for various holidays. Light strings are always fun. Game day items, right? Shirts, jewelry, hats, that kind of thing. And, as a special treat, maybe Uber and DoorDash gift cards, which would be kind of a fun surprise. So we'll put a more extensive list of suggestions for care packages in the show notes. And I'll also put a link to a care package that I curate for my clients with a coupon for 35% off. So I am not in this stage yet, but I have heard that one of the positives of launching kids and the empty nest is the potential for more time, space, and energy. Tell me about this magical place because I don't live there yet.
I mean, it is pretty freaking magical. And the beautiful part of this is where the reclamation can begin. And this may ruffle some feathers, but I think this is super important for women. The permission to reclaim parts of themselves that have been lost under the role of mom. So when launching kids, right, the space left by the kids can feel like a void. It definitely feels like a void. But it's also an opportunity to reclaim time for yourself, right? And it's a time to shift your energy from caregiving to self-care. And really, the void is palpable. I just remember walking by my son's empty room, and it was so hard. It was like torture.
Imagine.
And I definitely had to process my grief over him leaving. And make no mistake, there is grief when your kids leave wherever they're going. And so acknowledge your grief and take steps to move through it, just so you don't stay stuck in the sadness. And because I was a stay-at-home mom, I actually think that my reclamation of time and space came before my kids actually left the nest. Because when my youngest learned to drive, I just realized what a gift I was being given, having time to decide, okay, how do I want to fill this void now, right? And also, full transparency, I am keenly aware of my privilege. I did not have to return to work right away for financial reasons. And I had the space to figure out what would make me happy. And I know that that is not a luxury afforded to everyone. But this is when I really went inward, got clear on what I wanted, and I just really dove into my coaching business. And I know not everyone has the same situation that I do. And I have people in my life who have kids who struggle with addiction and mental illness, and they will never fully have the space and freedom to focus on themselves, because they will continue to be in an active state of parenting, much like you, Lisa. And I know your situation is different too. So what do you see available for you in this next stage?
Yeah, definitely. For me, this process has looked really different because I'm still at the stage where my kids really need me, and my son will always pretty much be pretty connected to our lives because of his disabilities. However, I have learned that doing things for myself and giving myself space and time has been an absolute survival technique for me. I'm definitely not great at it. Karen knows. But this year, I have really started to do things that feed that. So, like get massages, get my nails done, embrace work trips as a positive break from my family, schedule time to talk to friends or do things with them, that kind of thing. In terms of the future after this year, when my son graduates from high school, we've done some planning already. There are some legal ramifications because we have to retain parental rights since my son is not developmentally able to function as an adult. So we will have to petition the court because once they turn 18, it's almost impossible to get them back. And we have had several conversations over the years about what things will look like for him in the future, and frankly, us as well. So because of his disabilities, he will receive services from our school district through age 21. So we have some time to think about what things will look like. And there are other options in terms of a living situation for him. So, for example, there are things like group homes, which are sponsored by the county, supported with others that have similar needs to him with a full-time support workers. Other families I've known have purchased a house together, and then they pool the personal support workers together to support their children who live as roommates in this house. We have decided for various reasons that we will be remodeling our house and putting an apartment over a garage for him. He will have lots of support as an adult through additional hours from what is called a personal support worker. He'll probably have a few. Right now, we have one full-time plus. If we could hire another one, we could, but it's tough to find good ones. But after he graduates, he will basically have access to one 24/7, so he can live as independently as possible from us as an adult. And we're hoping that once he's able to function with this support system in place more independently, that we can have more time to be independent as well. So that's where my dream of having a condo and a cruise ship comes into play. So we'd always keep our home in Eugene for him. But this way we can travel. He could even come stay on the ship with us and visit. And we have this place to come back to where he has his own separate space as well. That's the idea at this point, at least. My name is Lisa Corachella McDowell, and I'm not just a healthy smoothie girl. Check out nextlevellifewithlisa.com, my website and centerpiece for all that I do. Connect with me about my free classes, the fabulous health and wellness products I have, literacy work, special education advocacy, and social media. I try to live my truth and put it all out there authentically. And for a special offer, go to nextlevellifewithlisa.com/podcast for some exclusive goodies for my Drinks with the Girls listeners. See you there. So what was your thought process when you launched your kids?
Let's see. My thought process was kind of mixed. I was super sad for myself. I was extremely excited for my kids, knowing that this is like the next natural step and how much they are going to grow and how much fun they're going to have and all that. But I think, it's really hard as a parent because you spend these 17 or 18 years literally every day doing multiple things related to this person, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to just be like, okay, bye, good luck. And it's really unsettling at first because you think, of course, of all the things that can not go right.
Yep.
But then you really settle in and you start to watch them and they won't get it perfect. They'll fuck up. And, sometimes you'll need to help them clean up the mess, but also sometimes you just get to witness. And that's how, they become adults. There's lots of feelings all over the place. But, it's when your kids leave and you become an empty nester, it's really time to reconnect with yourself and redefine your own identity. And often as women, we identify so strongly as mothers that we lose touch with who we are as individuals, especially if you're a stay-home mom. Ask me how I know. I felt like a fish out of water. Like I said earlier, when my kids started needing me less, when my daughter started driving, and I just felt like I was becoming obsolete. And then when they flew the coop, I didn't really know what to do. But I had focused so much on them, I just really felt lost for a time. But that's when I hired my first coach, and she helped me reconnect with my passions, get clear on what I wanted, and make a plan. And she held me accountable. That was super important. And that's one of the reasons I ended up going into coaching, because I wanted to help other women receive the powerful transformation I received at such a pivotal time in my life. And I want to help other women see the empty nest stage as an invitation to rediscover their passions and purpose beyond parenting.
So amazing. So let's give our listeners some actionable steps, because we like to do that, right? To rediscover who you are and want to become. So I've definitely used some of these in my process for sure. So one of them is a self-discovery exercise. Take a personality or strength test like StrengthsFinder or Enneagram, and to help you gain insights into who you are now. Another idea would be to create a vision for your future. So to develop a vision board to visualize your next steps, whether it's career growth, travel, or personal development. I've done these before. My grandmother actually taught me to do them when I was younger, and she called them treasure maps. And I remember learning those from a business person that I was with my business, and they were like, oh, vision boards. I was like, oh, treasure maps. And they were like, what? They're vision boards. I was like, whatever. It's all good.
I love that treasure map. That is so awesome. And I love me some vision boards / treasure maps. But there's also a practice you can use with affirmations. And affirmations are so powerful. Remember how I talked earlier about your thoughts? So affirmations can really help you when you are trying to create a more empowering mindset. So use daily affirmations to boost your confidence, reframe your thoughts of loss, sadness, or fear, and to remind you of your worth outside of motherhood. Say things such as, I am valuable for who I am, not just what I do. Or, I have raised wonderful children who are ready to explore their own path. Or, I choose to look at this transition as an opportunity and even an adventure. And if you don't like any of those, make your own. The next thing I would recommend is keep a journal, because journal geek here.
She loves her journals.
I do. With all your affirmations and your vision board, where you can regularly reflect on your evolving self-identity and your dreams for the future. At the risk of getting woo-woo on you, this can be so powerful. I tell my clients to leave their journal and their vision board by their bed at night. So before they fall asleep, it's the last thing their brain remembers. So either going over your affirmations in your journal, just looking at your vision board and seeing yourself in that vision, this helps solidify the affirmations and your new beliefs and dreams for the future in your mind. And it'll translate to what you believe about what is possible.
Yeah, I've been doing my journaling in the morning, but maybe I need to do it at night before I go to bed. I'll have to try that. So, because this is unfamiliar territory for me, I have consulted our Drinks with the Girls research department, actually, and they've come up with some actionable steps to use that newfound space, time, and energy that you might have as your kids start to lunch. So, for example, one of the recommendations is to schedule me time. Block out time in your calendar for yourself, whether it's an hour to read, take a walk, or start a new hobby. Karen and I are both fond of chicken time, where we sit out with girls and chill. That is an ongoing learning process for me, for sure. But I made some really good strides this year.
Absolutely. And, I have to say, really put it in your calendar. Don't just say to yourself, oh, I'm going to do it. Mark it out in your calendar so it gives it importance. Something else you could do is just try something new. Challenge yourself to step out of your comfort zone. Pick up a new activity, maybe taekwondo, a pottery class, or even a side business. Hey, belly dance class, anyone? When I was feeling the void of the empty nest, I took a hip hop class, an archery lesson, and I tried skeet shooting, among other things.
Wow.
Some of the other things that you can do, dust off your old passions, right? So sure, learn something new, but also think about those things that you used to love. Reflect on hobbies or interests that you loved before motherhood that you can now reintroduce into your life. You can download an app or use a planner to organize your new routine and stay accountable for making time for yourself.
I think these will give our listeners a great start. But what about filling that void left when your kids depart, Coach Karen? What are some other ways our listeners can nurture relationships and cultivate a deeper connection with others as their kids take on a different role in their lives?
Yeah, this is a great question. So with children leaving the house, there's an opportunity to refocus on your key relationships, which that would be your partner, if you have one, your friends, family, and even with yourself. And it's important to rebuild the intimacy and connection in your relationships, because we all know how when you're in the trenches of raising kids, it's just so time consuming and you don't have a lot of time for other relationships. And having one less kid in the house can shift how everyone relates in the family. And with your partnership, even when all the kids are gone, it's literally that cliche of, oh, who are you? And not to scare you, but 1 in 4 empty nesters get divorced once the kids have flown the coop. So strengthening relationships is extremely important. And ideally, you start working on this before your kids are ready to launch. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, friendships are so important for women as we age. So it's really important to reignite those connections as well.
Yeah, here's some practical things you can do to keep those relationships strong. Date your partner again. Schedule regular date nights or weekend getaways to reconnect with your partner, creating space for intimacy. Reignite your friendships. Reach out to friends you may have lost touch with and make plans, whether it's a monthly dinner, weekend coffee date. Reach out to other people that are new empty nesters or going through the same thing. Start a monthly dinner club or activity group with friends to foster connection and maintain social interaction, or a monthly drinks with the girls night out.
Woo!
Solo dates. You can spend quality time alone doing something that brings you joy, be it at a spa or a day hike or a movie night. Get to know yourself again. And here at Drinks with the Girls, we've created a great resource for you called the 30-Day Friendship Challenge. It's 30 days of prompts and suggestions to actionably create more depth and width to the friendships in your life. And we know you're going to find it super helpful. All you have to do is join our amazing Pod Squad and we will send it to you. You'll find a link to join the Pod Squad and more info in the show notes.
Hey, fabulous Drinks with the Girls listeners. Guess what? We have something exciting happening here at Drinks with the Girls. We have a way for you, our listeners, to be involved. We would love you to be a part of our Drinks with the Girls support team. Creating a sisterhood of empowered women is our goal, and we are so grateful you are here. But we need your help to grow this incredible community that we have a big and bountiful vision for.
You can help us get the word out about Drinks with the Girls because we want all women to feel the support of our powerful community behind them. Here's what you need to do. Go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe or follow Drinks with the Girls if you haven't already. We need you to share every episode we put out.
We would love for you to do this, especially when a particular episode resonates with you and or brings to mind someone you care about that you think would benefit from listening to it. Share with a girlfriend via text, share to your email newsletter, share on your socials, share from the rooftop. Every share is a chance for all women around the world to feel connected and supported by our Drinks with the Girls sisterhood.
The other thing you can do is officially join our Pod Squad email list. That will help you in 2 ways. First off, Every time a new episode drops, you'll get an email with info on the topic, so it reminds you to tune in and listen with an easy-to-follow link. But it's also an easy format to hit forward on and share with some of your favorite people so they can easily access the newest episode. That link is always included in our show notes for you.
We are so excited to have you as part of the Drinks with the Girls Pod Squad support team. We are all in this together. Cheers.
Cheers.
And something else I want to mention here is when we're talking about relationships is your relationship with your child. It is changing, and I know it feels hard. And from a mama who's been there, I want to encourage you to just lean into the hard and know that your relationship with your babies is shifting to something better. I know it doesn't always feel like it, and I know all situations are different and some relationships can be complicated, but you have the opportunity to lay the groundwork to finally become friends with your kids as they get older, and that's pretty cool. Obviously not when they're 18 because they still need parenting.
or 14, but that's a whole other story.
But over time, my kids are 26 and 28. And although I still do some parenting here and there, we also love to be together as peers. And it is truly incredible to watch your babies grow into adults. So you're saying goodbye to one chapter, right? And you're turning the page on another. And you're never giving up your role as mom. You're just readjusting it. Because believe me, they will always need you. But one tip I learned the hard way, and I actually still struggle with sometimes, is listen more than you advise. Give them guidance when they ask, but try not to give unsolicited advice, because this way you can show them you have confidence in their ability to handle things and that you support their independence. Unless obviously there's a dangerous situation or something that needs adult intervention.
Yeah, as my kids have gotten older, I've enjoyed getting to know them in terms of their growing interests and personalities. It's been really enjoyable to see them develop those. But as they've slowly become more independent, I've learned that I have to start prioritizing my own pleasure and rediscover joy and fun for myself. I've had to put that on the way back burner during the years of raising children. And even though that's limited for me in my situation, I really tried, especially this year, to rediscover and prioritize my personal joy, whether through travel or hobbies or self-care.
Love it. And here's some ways that you can do that. Create a pleasure list. You can write down a list of activities that would bring you joy, big or small, and commit to doing at least one of these a week. Put them on your calendar. Schedule it in. I have my clients make a list of 50 things, and they all freak out when I want them to do 50, but I never want them to run out of ideas, right? So think of it as your pleasure bucket list. And, you can also explore new pleasures, right? Try new experiences that sound fun or maybe that make you a little bit uncomfortable or nervous, right? This could be anything from joining a wine tasting club to signing up for a cooking class, but do not be afraid to get out of your comfort zone.
You want to invest in your own happiness. So don't be afraid to spend time, energy, or even money on things that make you happy and fulfilled. Moms have such a hard time spending money on themselves, but they are all too willing to hand over the credit card if one of those kids needs something. Here's a practical tip if this sounds like you. Set aside a pleasure fund in your budget specifically for activities or experiences that are just for you, whether it's a weekend getaway or a new hobby. Your desires, pleasure, rest, and fun are important.
So important. Now, here are some resources that we found to hopefully support you on your empty nest journey. Okay. And we're definitely going to link these in the show note. First off are some books. Okay. The first one is called The Empty Nest: 31 Parents Tell the Truth About Relationships, Love, and Freedom After the Kids Fly the Coop. This is by Karen Stabiner. And we haven't read these books, but this sounded really good to me. And if I was just experiencing the empty nest, this title would really draw me in because you get 31 different perspectives on relationships, love, and freedom. So this really spoke to me. The second one is called The Empty Nest: A Mother's Hidden Grief by J. Louise Despert. And this just discusses the emotional challenges of the empty nest syndrome, and it offers practical coping strategies. And we love books that offer strategies.
Yep. And quick plug, like we said in the last episode, I believe we're thinking about launching a book club. So maybe these will be in it. So tell us what you think about that idea. So some other books we could recommend: When the Kids Go to College, A Parent's Guide to Changing Relationships, and that's by Barbara M. Newman. And that one focuses on the transition when kids go to college, addressing relationship dynamics and personal growth. Another one we'd recommend is Midlife is Not a Crisis: Using Astrology to Thrive in the Second Half of Life by Virginia Bell. Although astrology based, this book offers empowering guidance on finding purpose and thriving during midlife changes, including the empty nest phase. And I will say, on our docket of guests is a good friend of mine who is an astrologer and uses that to really help people kind of coach them on relationships and different things in life. So I'm super excited for that one because I worked with her and it's pretty cool. So stay tuned for that.
I cannot wait for that one. That's going to be so juicy. And you know what? I love that book because it's not what you would expect, right? Using astrology to thrive in the second half of life. That really is intriguing. Another one is called The Gift of an Empty Nest: Discovering the Blessings of All of Life's Seasons by Jill Savage. And this is a faith-based resource that guides women through the emotional and spiritual process of children leaving home, helping them see the blessings in this transition. Now, some of the other resources we have are bloggers. Yes, blogs are still a thing. And the top ranked empty nester blog on Google is called Empty Nest Blessed by Susie Miguel. Susie shares lifestyle tips, travel ideas, and inspiration for living a fulfilled life after the kids leave. Focuses on fashion, wellness, and relationships. And she also has an Instagram account.
Cool. So another blogger is Katie Cozy, and she is the Midlife Rambler. And she writes about life after kids leave home, self-care, relationships, and how to thrive in this new chapter. Karen used to be connected with Katie in a midlife bloggers group, apparently, which I did not know. And she has a lot of recipes and home tips, but also practical posts on sending kids to college and keeping your marriage healthy, among others. The last blogger we want to recommend are actually two that work together. It's called Next Phase Parenting, and their names are Shelley and Kim. And this is a blog that's designed specifically for empty nesters, and it offers insights on navigating life changes, rekindling relationships, and finding purpose after the kids leave home. And they are also on social media.
So there are also some online communities and resources to check out. And the first one is a website, and they also have a Facebook group and an Instagram account called Grown and Flown. And this is a large community with articles, guides, like I said, the Facebook group where women can share experiences, advice, and support regarding the empty nest transition. And I can vouch for this group because when I was entering the empty nest phase, I relied on their support through the articles and etc. Another community is called Empty Nest Moms, and this is a Facebook group, and it's a supportive group where women going through the empty nest phase can share advice, encouragement, and tips for navigating this new stage.
There also are support services, and one of the ones we wanted to point out to you is called Empty Nest Support Services, and they provide coaching and resources specifically for empty nesters, and they help them find their purpose and joy post parenting. It's a pretty robust website. It also has blog articles, and the blog is called Life in Transition. So a lot of good information in an honest and upfront kind of way.
This is just me, but if I was looking for empty nest support, that would definitely speak to me. I don't want recipes and fashion tips. I want to know the nitty gritty of what I can do to move forward.
Give it to me straight.
Exactly. And lastly, shameless plug, but I have a pretty great Facebook group called Riding the Midlife Wave. And it's a community for women in their 40s and beyond, offering support through various midlife transitions. We don't focus specifically on the empty nest, but nothing is off the table. And it's an intimate, supportive group for women sharing experiences.
Love that group.
So thanks. I do too. We are hoping these resources and communities will provide support, inspiration, and practical tips to help you thrive during the empty nest stage.
So here are some key takeaways that we want you to have. So first off, you are not alone. I mean, my God, hopefully this podcast has showed you that.
We got you.
Yep. And also, it's okay to feel what you're feeling.
And this is a huge transition in life. And I think sometimes it gets blown over, like it shouldn't be a big deal. But it is a huge deal. And it's important to let yourself grieve, because not only are you, quote unquote, losing your chickies. I mean, you're not really losing them, but but you're also, quote unquote, losing that part of yourself that was actively parenting in the day-to-day. But I think it's important to remember, more than likely, your child is living their best life. So why can't you live yours? Let's wrap it up with a nice big bow. We hope we've encouraged you to view this phase of life as an exciting time. Feel your feelings, yes. Grieve your losses, because as in most midlife transitions, there are many. But also look at this stage as a beautiful opportunity to rediscover your passions, deepen your connections, and redefine what makes you happy. You have an opportunity to custom create your next chapter.
And we have a call to action for you. We want you to choose one actionable step from the episode to focus on this week and share on social media with us. We would love to cheer you on. Post and tag us. Our goal is that this episode gave you some supportive resources, but also some practical steps on how to feel the feels, focus on you, and rediscover yourselves as your kids take flight, ensuring you feel empowered and excited about your next chapter. Thank you, as always, so much for being here.
And don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Cheers.
Cheers.